Well. All right. Welcome back, everyone. Here we are, another All In with Love Playground Conversations. I'm your host, James Gardner. This is my little dance with others in the name of Little Jimmy. A little shout out to my younger self, where I sit down with some like-minded, high vibe peeps that share a little insight into their journeys in life, what they're doing, how they make the world a better place, some inspiration, some motivation, just some heart led conversation. And of course, centered around always bringing it back to our younger selves and that beautiful dance between old and young. So thank you for joining me today. On today's episode, here we go. Uh, this is a friend of mine, actually fairly new in my community, and we bonded. Her and her husband are amazing people. They live down in Mexico, Mexicali, on the beach, living the life. She's an entrepreneur. She's been an entrepreneur all her life. So we're going to dive into that and some of the mindset of that. And also, though, we're really going to have a conversation today about breast implant illness and this series of explants, as they are called, that's been going through, and we're going to share her story and her journey with you in the hopes of educating you and bringing some awareness to this. It is my pleasure to welcome Lori Spark to the show, or sorry, Lori Shea, codename Spark. So we may, just a disclaimer, gang, we may refer to her as Lori, we may refer to her as Spark. I kind of know her as Spark, so that's what I'm going to go with. But Lori Shea, a codename Spark, welcome.
Thank you so much, James. Thank you for inviting me on the show. I think this is definitely something that we need to bring awareness to.
Yeah.
There's a lot of women that are having explants now. The last I read, for every one woman having them put in, two are taking them out.
Yeah, this is something when we started connecting back and forth, and then you shared a little bit about your journey. Um, I was like, yeah, this is something. I mean, with my community, with my clients, which are predominantly women as well, it is a common thing, and I know a handful of clients that have gone through this, and colleagues that have gone through this in the last couple of years. So it seems that it's at the forefront of women's health this day and age for those that have gone through this procedure. So let's talk about this, Spark. Let's talk about your journey. So um, when did you have this explant surgery, if you will?
It'll actually be 2 years this November. Almost 2 years. It takes your body roughly 2 years to detox from actually having them removed. So I'm coming on my anniversary, November. I think it's around November 1st. I had them out in Vancouver.
Okay. And you know what, the term breast implant illness is really what it is. And so there are women that begin to have signs and an illness associated with breast implants, but they may not think or know or put the correlation to the implant. So before we get into the actual explant procedure and your journey with that, let's talk a little bit about the illness, like in terms of you, like what did you start to see and feel in your life?
So, James, I actually had them put in. I was 38 years old, bucket list, wanted to do a bodybuilding show, competed in the figure. It was an amazing experience, but I lost a lot of body fat. And of course, your breasts are mostly fat. So that's how I ended up with the implants. And I mean, I was in the best shape of my life. I was working out every day, spin class 5 days a week, martial arts 3 days a week. I was led to believe I would get these implants and life would go back to normal. And for about a year, it it was relatively normal. And I would say about 18 months in, I started noticing that my body was no longer recovering. It wasn't recovering from workouts. So it was like a slow progression of having to first I had to stop the martial arts. Then I stopped the spin class. And then I noticed I was still weight training 5 days a week. I was very active. I was still weight training 5 days a week, but my body was no longer recovering, and major chronic fatigue, till eventually, I would say by 2 years in, I was no longer even able to train. That was done. And after that, it progressed very, very quickly. And I was sick for 8 years. Like, I thought I was dying. Thought I was dying. And
So, okay.
it,
So there
like,
was a reduction. Sorry, there was a reduction in energy levels. There was a noticed lack of recovery. So your body's ability to bounce back after exercise, after exertion, was diminishing. And then, I mean, 8 years, as you just said, 8 years is a long time. So when you say you're feeling sick and felt like you're going to die, what was that feeling like?
so after I was no longer able to work out, I aggressively started seeing doctors. It was like, something's wrong. I was a healthy 39-year-old woman to now at like 40. It was hard for me to actually get out of bed in the morning. So I went to one doctor and was nothing. So then I found this other doctor who was absolutely amazing. We did CT scans, ultrasounds, like he tested me for everything, for the symptoms that I had. We talked about MS, we talked about Lyme disease, and we just kept testing and testing till eventually it was like, well, I think you have fibromyalgia, right? Because everything kept coming back like it was normal. And really hard because people were looking at me. I looked great, but James, I could barely function in life. I could barely get out of bed. The chronic fatigue, the joint pain. Like, if I walked up a set of stairs, my legs burned for an hour. It was that severe. And I was like, I'm dying. So for me, being the type of person that I am, I after I let that sink in, that the doctors were saying, well, we can't really find anything, it could be fibromyalgia, I aggressively went down the rabbit holes of health and wellness. And I was like, okay, I was healthy 2 years ago. What can I do to start changing, to see if I could have some quality of life? Because I had no quality of life. There was a period there when my older daughter was in school. I was pretty much bedridden for almost a year.
Wow.
Yeah.
So now I'd love to know, what was the tipping point for you then? So when did the breast light bulb go off where you're like, aha, perhaps it's this? Was there one defining moment for you?
Do you know what, James? We had moved to Fort McMurray. My pain was the worst it has ever been. I was seeing doctors up there. They had suggested that I start taking oxycodone. Charlie was little. That wasn't an option. And I was online one day in a juicing forum, and I started chatting with this lady from Florida, and we're just chatting back and forth, talking about what's going on. And she said to me, Lori, have you joined the breast implant illness site? And I was like, the what? And she was like, I'll send you the link. James, I got the link. I joined it, and I sat there and I started reading, because up till this point I had no validation of what was going on. Like, family members were treating me like it was all in my head, people in my life, because they couldn't see the pain that I was in or what was going on with my immune system. And I remember sitting there reading all these women who were going through the exact same thing as me, and I was like, oh my gosh. I cried for a month because I was like, finally I understood what was going on. And it was a real It was a hard pill to swallow to understand that I'd done this to myself. Because basically of vanity. You know what I mean? Because as women, we're so tied up in how we look, and it's just everywhere. It's everywhere. When you turn on
No,
TV and right?
that's a whole other conversation podcast right
Yes.
there. I mean, I
Yes.
would love to, I'd love to get into that. So 100%. Spark, what I want to talk about for a second before we get into the next steps once you started to move towards the surgery. Um, so is this illness, and again, I know you may not have all the information, you're not like the professor of this, however, and you know, just your thoughts with this illness, is it also dependent upon the unique genetic makeup disposition of said woman? Because there are many women who have had implants all their life without a problem,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
that's where I go. I'm thinking, okay,
Yeah.
what is that cause and effect that puts someone on this side of the street versus the other side?
So, James, a very large portion of society actually have a gene mutation called MTHFR, unbeknownst to them. And unless something major happened, like with me, you would never know you had it. But your body doesn't detox like a normal person. And the implants themselves, like the casing of the implants, because my implants were fully intact. They looked exactly like they did when we put them in. But they actually, there's 40 different toxins every single day that goes into your bloodstream from what the implants are made out of. So if I was guessing, I would say after a year and a half, the toxins had built up so much that my body just could not rapidly detox them enough. So
Hmm.
then the fallout started to happen. I think if I had to understand about this gene mutation early on, it would have totally clicked. I would have got it. I didn't learn about MTHFR until I was probably 7.5 years with the implants.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now I'm curious as to, are there markers for this gene mutation? Like, in other words, is it widely known? So whereas if you
A
someone was
naturopath would know it.
okay, so an implant, like an implant specialist, whatever they're labeled, if I was going to go in for a consultation, they wouldn't test to see if I had this marker or anything.
Nope. No.
Wow. Okay.
No. And when you have that mutation, that's where the breast implant illness will mimic things like Lyme disease, MS, different autoimmune issues. So you could be getting diagnosed, you know, your doctor could be saying you have MS and it's actually breast implant illness.
Sure.
I've
Sure.
talked to people who have had situations like this, had them removed, and everything went away,
Wow.
which is mind blowing.
Okay. Yeah, this, I mean, it really is. It's fascinating. Okay, so Spark, we've established this condition. You felt like shit for a good chunk of your your time.
Long
And
time.
what did you, okay, what were the first steps? So how did you go about finding somebody that that would do this surgery? How did you, like, what was your thought process for that?
So on Facebook, actually, there's an amazing group with so much resources. So within that group, they had a list of all the
Hmm.
doctors in the United States, in Canada. There's doctors that actually just specialize in explant surgery. They don't do anything else. So I found an amazing doctor in Vancouver, in Abbotsford, actually. And I called, and it like from my first time speaking to him till I actually had my surgery, James, was actually 2 years because it was more expensive to have them removed than it was to have them put in. It was a very expensive procedure. So then I felt like I was held hostage by these breast implants.
Wow. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah. I don't want to. I don't really want to skip over that because that's really powerful. I mean, there's a lot of psychological stuff that you were dealing with on a day-to-day basis, and being held hostage is exactly the way to label it, huh?
Oh, it was horrific. It was horrific because if I
Wow.
explain to you the routine that I had developed for myself just to be able to function daily, and then thinking about, oh my God, I got to do this until we can afford it. It was like, it was a full time job keeping my body detoxed to be able
Hmm.
to function because I had a young child.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Fast forwarding now. Can you shed some light on the procedure itself?
Absolutely, absolutely. So it's called a en bloc explant surgery because mine were under the muscle. So the doctor has to go in and he has to remove that capsule that forms around the breast implants because your body does that when you have implants put in. It's like your body just does that as a protection mode. So it builds this capsule around the implants. So they have to remove that. Otherwise, you'll remain sick. So my surgery was 3 hours long. It was long. I was cut from armpit to armpit. Like it was big. What I can tell you, James, is that before the surgery, I was in so much chronic pain daily that after the surgery, I had a 3 hour surgery and I did not take pain meds in my recovery. That's how good I felt once they were out of my body.
Wow.
I did not take a thing.
Wow. I'm sure a lot of that too is your mindset of get these fuckers out of me, if you will. And
Yeah.
as soon as that happened, it was literally two weights off your chest, right? But I mean, like it really
Well,
was. It was a weight off your shoulders, right? So,
oh, and
um,
I mean my upper thoracic body, James, like I had stenosis bilaterally, like the amount of pain and the things that went on in my body from these implants was mind
hmm,
blowing, right? And I will say too, I want to shed light on something that people don't realize. When these toxins are going in your body, they're also going in your brain.
hmm.
So I had very serious mental health fallout from the implants because that those toxins were all it's not just your body, it's your whole vessel.
Hmm. Oh, of course.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
and people
100%.
don't think about that. They don't think about like the depression and the anxiety being linked to breast implants, and it is most definitely like because it's toxins, it's in your body, it's in your brain.
Yeah, and you had said what I want to do now is switch to the 2 years that you've been detoxing. But the other thing too is what you just alluded to is it's also detoxing the mind. It's also detoxing your spirituality based on 8 years of living a certain way and going. It's it's creating a new norm for your body and mind and spirit that you have to rewire in addition to the body itself just getting back to its normal homeostasis of what spark was prior 38 years old or whenever it was you did that, right? So
Absolutely.
you had said earlier it takes about 2 years for your body to detox.
Yeah.
What just give us an overview if you can. What have the last 2 years been like for you on that road to recovery?
So, I mean, I really gave myself grace for the first 3 months, really let my body recover and just intuitively eat. Because one of the things that I did do that I found for me during that whole process was I had to be plant based. I had
Mm,
to eat things that didn't have a lot of toxins. So, when the implants were removed, I gave myself grace to just 3 months to recover. You know what I mean? But I was super excited to train again and see
right.
what my body was capable of doing because it had been so long since I consistently could work out. And I mean, I was in such fantastic shape beforehand. And I mean, from the implants, I had so much muscle atrophy and
Yeah.
so much muscle weakness. Like I was really excited to just get back to having energy and being active.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was a slow process. I continued to eat plant based, you know, extremely, lots of water, as healthy as I could. I found fasting was very beneficial to help with the detoxing, intermittent fasting.
Mhm.
And when we got to Mexico is really when I started to amp it up with the training. And I think it was probably 4 months ago that I actually finished 75 hard. Like it was amazing. Training twice a day. I didn't get sick and I felt amazing because that's one of the other things too. Like my immune system had no ability to fight
Right.
anything for 10 years. I was just constantly sick, constantly.
Right. Wow.
So now
Well, yeah.
I'm up 4:30 a.m. Prayer,
Oh, I know.
meditation,
Yeah,
train,
you're on
like
fire. That's for sure.
yeah,
Well, I mean, truly, and you have a new lease on life, and you're cashing that check every day. You're making the most out of it, right? And
yeah,
so I think, yeah, I mean, you are a true inspiration and a true warrior out there to to go through this journey. And I also want to say and just bring attention to you didn't settle, you didn't take no for an answer. You kept digging, you kept pushing. You knew that something was wrong, and I think for everyone out there, remember that the medical system doesn't have all the answers, and no disrespect to the doctors out there and so forth, but a lot of times it always it takes an ownership of ourselves. And I talk about this in my coaching world. You have to become a student of X, of building a business, of said business, of being an Olympic athlete, of whatever it is. And when you have an illness like this and a condition, it's becoming a student of that. Like diving in, no stone unturned, right? And I think you are a champion of that, and I think you're a testament to the ability that a lot of women have out there that are probably in your shoes, or maybe even somebody may be watching this and all of a sudden the dots have just connected and they're having a holy fuck moment, just like you did with that Facebook group, right?
and that's a hard place to be, James, psychologically, because you have these amazing boobs. You become very attached to them. They always look great, right? So then you're so attached, and so it's a whole mental thing that you have to go through when you think about removing them. But I will say that for me, it has been the most amazing journey because it brought me back to God, right?
Hmm.
Because everything was stripped away.
Hmm.
And I come to a realization that when you don't have your health, you don't have anything. So I had so many epiphanies and realizations. Like I come to an understanding that when you're in chronic pain, the only place you can live is in the now. You can't be in the past. You can't be
Yeah.
in the future because you're just in so much pain. So for me personally, I really took that experience and tried to turn it into, okay, what do I have to learn from this? I was not willing to be a victim under no circumstances.
Under zero. That's it. Zero tolerance for that. And switching gears, that has brought you to Mexico. It's been a catalyst. It has
It
for
has.
you, for your partner, for your daughter, and you are living a life by design. So as you know, Playground Conversation centers around my book, All In With Love, and it is a journey back to that younger child. And I know from watching you and watching Russell, the two of you do play. You play in your entrepreneurial efforts, you play in your relationship, you play just in terms of going for a walk on the beach. And so share a little insight, if you will, of of what's been going on down there for you, and maybe some kind of cool little anecdotes, if you can, for your journey down there in Mexico.
So we had decided that, we wanted to make some changes and we were ready to make shifts. And I think because of just our backgrounds, we were ready to let go and see what the universe had in store for us. So, I mean, we liquidated everything. We bought a travel trailer and we hit the road, James. And I
Hit
mean,
the road.
hit the road. And I had lived in Mexico previously, and when myself and Russell got together, one of the first questions I had asked him is, "Are you willing to move to Mexico with me?" And he was like, "Hang on." So, I mean, it was always a conversation in our house. And I tell you, it has not disappointed. We're on the Baja Peninsula. We're in between La Paz and Cabo San Lucas in this absolutely beautiful little town. It's perfect for us, and life has been really good. It's simple. The food is organic. The food on the Baja is organic. That makes me happy. We're 2 minutes from the beach. We both work on digital platforms. So our life really is by design. I'm up early in the morning. My favorite part of the day is watching the sunrise, taking Charlie to the beach and just simply enjoying life. Actually, me and Tanya had a conversation. Like, one of my favorite things that I have learned is so beneficial is to be barefoot. I don't have shoes, James. It's amazing what happens when your feet are on Mother Earth.
Well, it's grounding. True. Yeah, grounding's a thing. Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's been simple, it's been beautiful. And when we left Canada, we were so scared. We didn't know what we were getting into. But I think, through the process of trusting and being opened, we have just come into alignment with just amazing, amazing people. And it's been working really well.
That's good. And it should. It doesn't have to be hard. Doesn't have to be laborious. And it's cliche, but on the other side of that risk is a beautiful reward. And you're a testament to that. And getting back to your journey that you shared with us here, I mean, it's a testament to, having, not being a victim. And that is a dangerous a record loop in life that a lot of people fall into. It's easier to play that victim card, and it's easier to let fear control and drive the bus than to actually be proactive in life. And I always talk about proactive, reactive, as you know.
Yes.
So, I'm super excited for you guys, and I know there's going to be more great things in the work that you're doing, and play. So let's talk inner child, shall we, for a moment here? We got a few minutes left. So, what do you and your partner and your daughter do for play down there? Like, what's play mean to Lori Shea Spark? What is that? What's that definition for her?
Oh my God. I think our whole life is play, James, now. And it's a process. Like, I'm not as loose as Russell. Like, my husband, Russell, it's like living with Jim Carrey full time. And he's very loose. So, I mean, him and Charlie are always like, "Come on, Mom, loosen up." And I'm getting there. I'm definitely getting there. And, but for me, it was all about stripping everything back. Right? Stripping things back and not having the stresses that we had. And I call it the matrix, living up there, because the moment that, you're tied to a mortgage and tied to this and tied to that, then it's just stress of, so it's been a year of decompressing, James, and just getting back to who I am. For the first 3 months, I painted for 3 months almost every day on the beach because I am an artist. So that was amazing, right? And I've just been slowly making my way back to my passions in life. Because
Love it.
like when you get busy in life, that's the first thing that gets taken away.
Well, bang on, Spark. And this is the cornerstone of my book. And I taught it. Yes, it's my life story. It's from little Jimmy all the way through to James, in terms of James having a life moment where he has to get back to uh, his essence, his truth. And I talk about going on this quest at the end of the book, in the jungle of his own mind, to get back to the essence of his purity and his truth. And what you're saying is exactly what I found, which is it's truly getting back to that essence of our younger self, because in that was, as you said, this idea of being creative, of being an artist. I mean, when we were young, we were all artists. Every day was a canvas, right? And that gets deprogrammed out, and our limitless mindsets become nothing but limitations that others put on us about what to behave,
Absolutely.
do, or how to behave, what to do, say, think, do this, get a mortgage, get married, have kids, save for a rainy day, all that stuff. And you know, there's so much power to be gained from stepping in our own authenticity. And I know that's kind of cliche because a lot of self-growth people talk about it, but it's authenticity of the child within. In
100%.
in our work we do, Spark, and I know Russell does a lot of self-growth too. It's like we're on a path to self-actualization. We source our higher selves, all that stuff, and we're on this path. And so we're climbing this ladder of self-actualization, of purity. And actually what we're doing is we're just completing the loop, getting back to our younger self, because we were pure at once. We were. And
And
it's
I
really
see that in Charlie Joe.
yeah.
Right? Well, yeah, I mean, she's never been to school. So she is just imagination on steroids. Like, it's amazing. And to be able to take part in that, I feel like I'm getting to relive it all over again.
And that's amazing, and I got to relive it again through writing the book, and you're reliving it in high definition every day with her. And I think it's important. And I think for anyone out there, this mythical quest of happiness truly is found at the outstretched hand of our younger selves. I do.
I agree.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. So with that, as we come to a close, Miss Spark, I'd like to ask you one question. I ask all my guests this question. We'll put you on the hot seat a little bit, if I may. uh, and it just a beautiful segue of what we were just talking about, as you brought it up. In my book, I talk about inevitably in one's life, we always walk through a doorway. We walk through this doorway into adulthood. It's some sooner or later than others, but it's inevitable. At some point, we go into adulthood, and that change we just talked about starts to happen. That fissure starts to happen between the two. If you could go back to that moment, um, and connect with your younger self, knowing what you know now, what would you like your younger self to whisper to you as you embark on this adult journey?
Oh my gosh. It's definitely a lot. And I don't know if you're aware, I struggled with addictions in my younger self. And
Mm,
that and it was tied to it was a lot of ego and having something to prove, um,
mm,
and I just went down a road that I really didn't need to go. I really didn't need to go. And I was saying this to Russell the other day. I didn't understand why when I was younger, it was the most successful time I was, but I was an alcoholic. And he said that makes total sense because, you were probably an empath. So it was a way that you could numb so you didn't have to feel in the environment you were in. And I think because I was so driven by ego, trying to prove who I was, I had learning disabilities. I barely made it through high school. So I was this young person, totally driven by ego and alcohol. And, that was a journey I just didn't need to take. But of course, I wouldn't be the person I am today if I didn't take that journey, James.
No, 100%. And acceptance, right? Acceptance and ownership of that part of you. That's part of that beautiful tapestry that you are today. And so thank you for sharing that. Thank you for your vulnerability and transparency on that. So, okay, Miss Spark, as we wrap up here, I'm just going to ask you, first off, just to acknowledge again, thank you so much for your candid conversation today around breast implant illness, around your journey with that. And what can you say to someone out there that may be listening that would just inspire them to maybe follow in your footsteps and maybe get the diagnosis or get the next step that they need to kind of rewrite their story?
Well, James, I'd like to say two things. I'd like to speak to the people that if you're thinking about getting breast implants, please go get tested for MTHFR. Because it's basically, it's not if you'll get sick, it's when. You're playing Russian roulette. And then if anybody that has been listening to this, the light bulb has went off, I would encourage you to do some research because, and I have coached some women who have had their implants removed, and it's very scary, James, but I have my life back. I am full of life. I am vibrant. And anybody that's struggling with breast implant illness will know what I'm talking about when I say it's a struggle to get through the day, like between the brain fog and the chronic fatigue and the muscle pain and the autoimmune issues. And now I'm going to be 50 on October 16th. I work out most days, twice a day. I get up at 4:30 a.m. and I'm full of life. That I didn't have that for 10 years. And I swore to God that when I got it back, I wasn't going to miss anything. I wasn't going to miss anything.
Beautiful. Not going to miss anything. And you're not. Every day you're there. So thank you so much, Spark. Thank you. You are a beacon of inspiration, and I know you're going to keep on shining bright down there in Mexico and beyond, wherever your next journey takes you and your family. So thank you for sharing some conversation today.
Thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure. And thank you, community at large. Thank you for tuning in once again, wherever this finds you, Facebook Live, on Spotify and Apple and all the other podcast platforms. Thank you. As you know, my book now is out to the world, All In With Love, My Journey to the Hero Within. It is a memoir. It is a story of reconnection back to innocence, lost innocence, and the wonder that is all capable for all of us. And it is available at over 50,000 booksellers online all over the world, Amazon, of course, and you will find associated links in this broadcast. So mad love to the community at large out there. Look for your playground and continue on your sandbox journey. All right. Thank you to my guest, and we will see you all on the next episode.